Hello everyone and welcome to day 11 of hashtag Art Journal Habit 2017, a month-long daily art journaling page challenge. I'm doing this challenge in my junk journal that I made out of junk mail, and there is a link to the video where I made that on the live stream channel if you want to watch that and find out how it was made with stab binding. I guess I didn't say I'm Shel, Paper Rock TO Studio, but you probably already know that. So today's prompt is paradise, and I thought about that for a while, and I thought about the concept that really most people think of like paradise. I think most people's concept of that would be like maybe an island in the Caribbean and white sands and tropical drinks, and I would say that's maybe the number one idea, and then it goes from there. But I was just trying to think of what paradise means to me, and I think really we all have a concept, and it's inside our head of what paradise might be. It's all going to be different for different people, and so I didn't really want to, I didn't want to like lock it down. And then I was thinking about this plant that we have in our front yard that's at this point there's 2 of them in the front yard and 3 of them in the backyard, and it was new to me when I moved to Arizona, this plant. Beautiful bright colors, orange, yellow, red colors, and you see them around here in the desert, and I didn't know what it was, and I said, that is such a pretty plant, we should get one in the yard. And come to find out that the name of it is Mexican bird of paradise. And then I was thinking, well, there's another bird of paradise is what I always thought. That there's another plant called bird of paradise, and that kind of I don't know, kind of went on another tangent. As you can see, I wasn't like really locked down on what I was going to do on this page. So I put some white gesso on, and then I filled up the background with some blue and teal and white acrylic paint to cover up all that stuff that's on the junk mail. You've either got to cover it up with some paint or you've got to cover it up with some collage, because otherwise it's just going to be there. That's the idea of a junk journal, is that you're reusing something that would be thrown away and making it into some art. So I did that, and then I decided that on one side of the page I would make a Mexican bird of paradise, and on the other side of the page I would make a tropical bird of paradise, and then that's kind of where I was going. So I'm starting out on the left hand side with the Mexican bird of paradise, and it's basically a bush, and then it has these on the ends of the bushes, the stems, it has this thing that starts out, and interestingly, the stems are red on the ends, and the stem ends don't have much of a flower, but there's a little bit, much of a leaf, but there's a little bit at the bottom. And then it has orange and yellow and red kind of stacked petal flowers on it with yellow stamens on the inside. So I drew out my basic design with a pencil, and then use some paint, some acrylic paints, to paint in some of it, and then I'm finishing up using collage or paper painting with different pieces of yellow, orange, and red paper that I'm tearing into petal shapes and building my little stacked looking flowers. This is actually what the plant looked like, and I don't know why it's called bird of paradise. It's kind of funny that there's 2 plants that are completely different named bird of paradise. But on a paradise prompt, bird of paradise plants seem like a good idea. Plus the difference between the plants being in different areas, growing in different climates, and then that feeding into the idea of everyone's version of paradise, or where they think that is, or what they think that is different. And I love where I live. I love Arizona, And I think it's a paradise. Other people say, oh, it's so hot. It's so hot there. How can you stand it? And I think it's wonderful. I love it. It's dry. It's hot. There's no humidity. And I have my beautiful golden red mountains and all these interesting plants to look at. And I don't think the desert is at all unappealing, which some people do. But I'm certainly not going to take away from a beautiful white sand beach and gorgeous aqua-colored water and beautiful bright tropical plants either. That's also a great idea of paradise. And maybe your idea is huge giant redwood trees out in the forest and lots of woodland creatures. I mean, I don't know. I just couldn't nail down what I thought paradise means, I guess. I just couldn't settle on one thing. So my page is multiple things, lots of color. So then I decided I needed to kind of, without taking up 100 million years doing this page, because I have to make another page tomorrow and another page after that, and I have to make the video and I have to edit it, and I can't take 5 hours on these pages like I might be prone to doing at some point in my life. I would maybe do just as much time as I would on something else on an art journal page. I don't think they need to be quick. I don't think that we need to stick to any idea of 15 minutes of art journaling or whatever. You're doing it to make yourself happy. You're doing it to play around with things, learn about things. And so I don't set a time limit for myself, but I do have to keep in mind that I got to do this somewhat quickly so that I can fit it in a 20-minute video. And I also know that I'm going to have to do it again tomorrow and the next day. So I'm just kind of filling in the edges, giving the idea of other plants being around these plants without any type of real specific pattern. I did find this one napkin that had some little yellowy orangey things, which are not Mexican bird of paradises. I'm not sure what they're supposed to be, but putting pieces of that on the edge makes it look like there are more of those flowers, because this plant is a bush. It's not one single thing. This is just one stem of it. So I wanted to fill it in with some green and with some other colors. And then on the other side, I'm building a tropical bird of paradise plant using some darker colors, darker greens for contrast, because that plant has very shiny dark green kind of rounded leaves, and then these stems sticking up, which have this strange combination of a leaf and a flower, kind of spiky looking, that sticks out from it. If you haven't ever seen them before, I'm sure everyone has seen them, but when I lived in California in Los Angeles area, we had this type of a plant, and I really thought they were cool. Really enjoyed looking at them too. So just two different plants with the same name. That's about what my page is about, I guess. And what am I going to do tomorrow? I don't know. Still not quite in my groove yet after my trip. So now I'm building the stalks with the flower portion of the tropical bird of paradise, still doing paper painting collage. And on this side, rather than tearing the pieces, I'm cutting them out with scissors to make a little bit neater look. But I'm not making a pattern or following a pattern, or I'm just freehanding it just to make it look like those things that stick up from that plant, the floral part of the plant. So it's pretty fun. I like to paper paint. I like to do collage, so it would be kind of fun to do it as a canvas, to make a really colorful bird of paradise canvas, maybe with some paper painting, if I ever have a minute free. to do something like that. And then I'm also still filling in the edges and around the plants with some other just random green shapes torn out of paper to give the idea that these plants aren't standing alone, that there are other leaves and branches and stems and whatever around the plants. So yeah, that's what I did. And as I'm doing this, I'm still thinking about what does this page really say, and how am I going to convey what I was meaning, and do I need to find a quote? Do I need to write some words? Does it really say what I wanted it to say? You know, is it finished? Is it, yeah. So I'm still thinking about that as I'm working on this process. I get a little fine paintbrush and some paint, and I'm kind of filling in a little bit of detail, and I continue to do that later with some pens as well. This is some acrylic paint that was just left on the palette that you can't see. It's actually just my craft sheet that I sprayed it so that it would stay wet, and then I'm using it to kind of detail a little bit with a tiny brush. Still trying to make those, basically what those are is buds. The plant starts flowering at the bottom, and then those flower petals fall off, and it continues to flower, you know, more and more and more until all the buds are complete. And then when it's all dried out at the end of the season, which should be coming up, I don't know, it's starting to get a little bit colder here, we will cut those things down to 6 inches from the ground, and then by this time next year it'll be 8 feet tall again. They're pretty amazing plants. So now I'm adding some shadows to the background using a artist pit pen, which is, I have a set of all different colors of it, and it's India ink inside of the pen, so that it gives me a couple seconds that I can blend it with my finger, and then it dries permanent. So those are really great pens for mixed media and adding shading and detail to your images. And of course, as always, all the products I used on the page will be linked below so that you can go and look at them and purchase them if you want. And they'll be linked mostly to Amazon, where I purchase a lot of my art supplies because I don't have a reliable place in town to go and find, you know, stuff. It's just, there's just not a place. So I buy a lot of my stuff on Amazon.com. So once I'm done with the shadowing, then I decide I'm just going to write the words Mexican bird of paradise and tropical bird of paradise so that maybe people can identify what it is. I don't know why I did that. I used a pen to do that, and then I decided to darken the edges with some manganese blue archival ink. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to put in the middle. What should I say? Still undecided, you know. So then I go to my little tub of letters and rub-ons and different things, and I'm looking at these different rub-ons, trying to see if any of them spark an idea of what I should say. And I really like this one that says happiness, and I think happiness is in your head, paradise is in your head, happiness is paradise, paradise is happiness. You know, I'm like, I'm thinking all this in my head. This is, I'm trying to explain to you what I'm thinking in my head, which is, I decide I'm going to put that word happiness on there just because I like it. I like the font, and I like that it's heavy black, and it'll hold up against the background and the colors and stand out. And so I go ahead and I cut that one out. This is a rub-on, and I'm pretty sure that these rub-ons came from Tuesday Morning. I didn't really have any rub-ons until maybe recently. I didn't even know it existed, but I bought those at Tuesday Morning, and they were probably only like $1.99 or something like that at that store. it's kind of a clearance store. So then I don't have anything else to put on there, so I decide the other letters that I'm going to use are going to be stamps. These letter stamps are from Stampin' Up. They're probably discontinued at this point. There's a lot of letters out there, but I like these, so I decided to use them with my Tuxedo Black Memento ink, which is a permanent ink. And then as I was stamping away, I realized that those words over there were a problem. So I tried to clean up as much of it as I could. It's Posca pen, and I'm like wiping it off with a baby wipe. It's starting to wipe away the paint too because I'm rubbing so hard. So I just clean it up as much as I can and then finish stamping the word. And then I go back in and touch it up with some more acrylic paint and decide that that's better that way. I end up rewriting the words in a different place. So then the other letter stamps that I found to use are, I think they're Dina Wakley, maybe, or maybe Diane Reevely, one of those two, and they are the kind that stick to a clear acrylic block. I think I got those at Tuesday Morning also. And you can, one of the nice things about those acrylic kind like that are that you can make words on your block and not have to stamp them individually. I like that, but also the acrylic that they're made out of isn't as clear of image when you stamp it as the red rubber ones. So, you know, either or. I'm not going to have much commentary about that. I do like my red rubber stamps, but they're all on blocks, which means they take up a lot of space. So yeah, decided to say happiness is my paradise. Paradise is in my head. Happiness, yeah, that's what I decided to say. And then I highlighted the words with a white Posca pen, and then I was pretty much done. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment so that I know you were here, or ask a question if you want to. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you turn on your notification bell, and share if you want to. That's it for me. Bye-bye.